Hi, thanks for tuning into this video. Now you're watching this video because you've gone on Redfin and you scheduled a tour and I've been assigned your agent and we're going to be meeting soon. Or we've already had our tour and I sent you this video because I want to educate you more about buying a home here in this Los Angeles real estate market. Either way, by the end of this video, you're going to be empowered and you're going to know exactly what it takes so that you can win in this LA real estate market. Now, I put this together because I found out over the years that a lot of times when I'm meeting clients, we have to move very quickly in order to get your offer accepted. And a lot of times that can cause anxiety because most buyers out there, especially first-time home buyers, or if you're new to buying a home in Los Angeles, don't know exactly what the home buying process looks like. So in this video, I'll be explaining to you everything you need to know. So like I said, you can win in this LA real estate market. So let's go ahead and dive in and I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so buying with Redfin. So I'm going to be covering four main topics here. We're going to be talking about planning and your financing. We're going to be talking about how to go about searching for the homes that you're looking for and touring those homes. We're going to get into what it takes to actually make an offer and what that process looks like. And then we're going to talk about what the closing process looks like, or what we call it here in LA, the escrow process. So let's dive right into this. All right, so first of all, I'm your agent, Theus. I've been selling homes in Los Angeles since the year 2008. At the time of recording this, I've been doing this for over 16 years. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm a great agent. I've helped over 54 buyers in the last 24 months become homeowners. So if you're working with me buying a home in LA, you are in absolute great hands. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is financing. Financing really is the first step if you're serious about purchasing a home. And you need to understand that, because if you don't have your finances in order and you're out, you're looking at properties, you're going on tours, and you find a home you love and you want to make an offer, well, guess what? If you don't have your finances in order, you will not be able to make that offer until you get your financing lined up. And sometimes that could be the difference between missing out on a home and actually being able to get your offer accepted. So step one is going to be, let's get your financing in order. Now, 20% of buyers here in Los Angeles do pay cash for homes. So if you're one of those folks and you're going to be paying cash, then all you need to do is just work out how you're going to be transferring the funds over from whatever accounts you have them in into the escrow company, depending on what house that we go with. Normally, you're just going to need a proof of funds, just a bank statement or some type of a financial record that shows that it can prove that you have the funds, and so that you can get through the entire escrow process and close on the home. So it's just like I said, a proof of funds. It just shows that you have the funds available, ready to go. Now, if you're like 80% of folks buying homes in Los Angeles, then you're going to be financing your home. Now, the first step is going to be to reach out to a lender so that you can get what's called a pre-approval. And this is so important because with the pre-approval, now you have a document from a lender saying, hey, I've already looked at their financial records and I'm guaranteeing that we can go ahead and we can finance them and get them through the entire escrow process and close on the home. And now once you have that, guess what? You know exactly what you can afford. And now myself and you can go into the market and find the perfect house that's within your budget. Now here at Redfin, we make that incredibly easy for you. We have our own financing company. It's called Bay Equity, and they are one of the #1 lenders in the entire nation. And they're used to working with our Redfin clients, and they know that they have to move quickly. So what you can do is actually right from the app, you can connect and go ahead and get started with that, or you can reach out to me and I'll connect you and make the introduction. They're going to have a conversation with you. They're going to ask you a couple of questions just so they can get to know your financial background, understand what your goals are, and then they'll give you what's called a pre-approval and let you know exactly how much home you can afford. All right. It's really quick. It's really easy. And they're one of the best out there, and they actually close, which is important. It's really important that when we're out there and we're writing offers, that you have a lender that has a reputation of closing, because a lot of lenders out there don't. Let me tell you a quick little tip. A lot of folks out there, when they think about getting financed for their home, they want to go to their regular bank, your Bank of America, or even your credit union or Wells Fargo, or one of these national brands. And guess what? A lot of listing agents out there don't like accepting offers if you have a pre-approval for one of those institutions, because they move slow. They're so big, they move slow. They don't answer the phones on the weekends. They don't answer their phones after 7 p.m. where when you're working with a mortgage broker or a broker like Bay Equity, they understand what it takes to get through the transaction. And the listing agent is going to be excited to see that you have a lender that they know is in alignment and that can actually close. So that's my little tip for you. Now, like I said, your first step is getting that pre-approval. That pre-approval is going to allow myself and you to know exactly how much home you can afford so that I can do my job, go into the market and find the perfect home for you. Not only that, in some instances, in order to even set up a showing, the listing agent is going to require and they want to see your pre-approval and your proof of funds, just to make sure that you're serious and you're someone that can actually pull the trigger and actually make an offer and get through the process. Not every listing agent is going to require that, but a lot of homes do, especially when you start talking about some of the higher price points. So the first thing we want to do is prepare you and know exactly what your budget is. So we want to know exactly what your down payment is going to be, how much money you have saved up for your down payment. Now, usually down payments can range between 3% down to 20% down. And then some folks like to go with larger down payments so that way they can bring their payment down. And they also have conventional loans that are non-FHA that start at 3%. They have 5%, 10%. 15% loans, 20% down loans. So these are all the things that my lender or your lender will talk to you about and help you get into the right product. The next thing you want to know about is what is going to be the estimate for your closing costs. Now, on average here in LA, I know my slide here says between 2% to 5%. Here in Los Angeles, on average, you're going to be looking at between 1% to 2% for your closing costs. So it depends on the home, it depends on the situation, depends on if it's a condo versus a single family home. And these are all things that we can discuss one-on-one. The next thing that you absolutely want to know is what's going to be your monthly payment. You know, a lot of people get so caught up on the price of the home, but I'm here to tell you something. You might not believe me if you've never bought a home before, but it's absolutely true. After that first 3 years, you're not even going to remember what you paid for the house. I was literally talking to a client yesterday. I sold him a home back in 2021 and we were discussing it. He was telling me how well the property's doing. It was a multi-family. He's making a lot of money on this property now, like more than he ever thought he would. He had no idea what he paid for the home, but you know what he did know? What that monthly payment was. So at the end of the day, once we close escrow, the price of the house is irrelevant. You're stuck with that monthly payment. So you want to know going into this process what your monthly payment is going to be. All right. And that's something that you and your lender will discuss. And then the next thing you want to know about for your budget is the moving cost, right? It's going to cost you to move from where you're living now to here to Los Angeles. Now, if you're already living in Los Angeles, of course, it's going to be lower expenses to move across town. But if you're coming from another part of the country or another part of the world, like a lot of my clients are, then you absolutely need to have a budget set aside for that because it's important. You can't move to LA if you can't afford to move to LA. So you need to know exactly and set aside a budget for what your moving expenses are going to be. And these are all things that I can help you with. I can connect you with movers and vendors that help you with that entire process. All right, now that you have worked out your finances, now we can get into the fun part, which is searching and touring homes. Now at Redfin, like I said, they've completely reinvented the entire home buying process for buyers and made it super easy. And you can actually create saved searches. You go right into the app, you type in the area that you want to search for, and you can just go in and save a search. And then all the homes and all the activity on those homes, you'll get notifications whenever there's activity or whenever there's new homes or even if a home's sold. So that way you could start to learn the market, gauge the market, see what a property comes on the market at, see if there's any price reductions and see where it closes at, which is going to help you have a better understanding of exactly the neighborhood you're moving into and what that market looks like. The next thing, which is so revolutionary that Redfin has done, is they've made it easy. Remember the old staple commercial, the easy button? Well, that's what Redfin has done. They have a button right in the app. Anytime you want to tour a home, you hit that button and we have an entire team behind the scenes that goes into action to schedule that tour for you and to connect you with your agent. Now, in some cases, your agent, like let's just say I'm your agent, I might be on another appointment. I might be doing another showing. I might be having a consultation with the client. So if I can't make it to that showing that you're requesting, I have partner agents that will show up on behalf for me. They'll open the doors for you, tour everything, answer your questions. They report directly back to me, keep me updated on how you felt about the tour. And then obviously I would follow up with you afterwards. And that's gonna be true for any other Redfin agent as well too. The great thing about Redfin is they build an entire team around us so that we can perfectly take care of all of our clients. So it's fantastic. And then the next thing is that you want to start comparing neighborhoods, and it's so easy to do that right on the Redfin app. You can literally go into the app, you can type in a neighborhood that you like, you can just go on the map and look around. You can actually draw a perimeter around a neighborhood that you like and draw circles in different areas and point out different things. So the app is so intuitive and makes it so easy for you to actually search for your home and schedule tours. There's one more thing I want to tell you about, and that is this awesome thing that Redfin just came up with. It's a brand new program that they actually are piloting here in Los Angeles. So this might not apply to every part of the country, but they have this new program called Sign and Save. So if from the time you schedule your first tour, before your second tour, if you decide to hire a Redfin agent and sign a buyer agreement that we're going to represent you, they will give you back, depending on the price point, between 0.25% of the purchase price all the way up to 0.5%. So the way it works in LA, if the home is priced under $1.5 million, then you'll get 0.25% refund back at the close of escrow. And if it's priced over $1.5 million, then you will get 0.5% back of the price of your property at the close of escrow. So it's really awesome. It's a great incentive to go ahead and use the Redfin professionals that are at your disposal. All right, the other great thing that Redfin has done, and we really are becoming the leaders in the industry, is our market data. We have been collecting market data since 2007, and we're one of the largest I would say data brokers out there as far as collecting home data. So all the home data that you would possibly need, recent sales, past sales, all the information that you would possibly need about a neighborhood or about a home is right there in the app, right on that page. And if for some reason there's something that's not there, then you can always just reach out to your Redfin agent and they'll be able to get the answer to that question for you if they don't already know it. So now we're at the fun part. You've gone into the app, you've set up some searches, you've gone on some tours, we've seen some homes, we find the home that you actually like. Now we're going to actually write an offer. Now, the offer process. So let's talk about what the offer process is going to look like. So there's a couple of strategies out there when you're considering writing an offer. So we're going to get into that. Now, first, we're going to talk about what are the strategies that exist and that we actually use as Redfin agents that are actually going to make your offer stronger. And then we'll talk about strategies that actually get you the best deal. So it depends on what kind of situation you're in, what kind of home we're looking at, and how bad you actually want the home. So highest price, let's be honest, the best way to get your offer accepted is to give the seller what they want. Sounds pretty simple, but a lot of people miss that. And I get it. You're out there, you're buying a home. One of the things I want to teach you is this. You have opposing goals when you're buying a home, right? So you as a buyer, most people watching this video are probably buyers. Your goal is to find the home you love and get it for the absolute best price. But guess what? On the other end of that deal is a seller, and their goal is to sell that property for the absolute highest price. So your goals are opposite of their goals. And that's where we come in as your agent to help you guys meet in the middle and come up with a price and an offer that makes sense, not just for you, but for the seller as well. So highest price. Now, if you're in a situation where you can offer the highest price, that is always going to be the #1 strategy because that's what's going to attract sellers. Let's be honest. I've been doing this a long time. Money talks, all right? It absolutely does. And greed always normally kicks in like 95% of real estate transactions. If you're offering the highest price, you're going to be the person that the seller is most interested in going into escrow with, all right? Another thing that we can do is we can do what's called an escalation addendum. And what that does is that when we're in a multiple offer situation, we put an escalation clause in that says whatever your highest offer is, we'll come in at, let's just say $3,000 above that price up to a certain limit, right? So that way you're not, going crazy. So you decide on what your limit is, and then you can do an escalation clause, and that's how you can easily beat out other buyers. All right, I've done this a lot of times, and I have gotten a lot of offers accepted using escalation clauses. And then another thing we can do, depending on how highly competitive the home is that we can waive certain contingencies. And we can talk about that a lot on one-on-one because there's just different strategies we use that allow you to waive contingencies and still protect you. Now, you might be asking yourself, what are contingencies? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this video, okay? Faster and flexible closing dates. Now that's something that I definitely have used a lot as an agent. I try to get you through the process as fast as possible, not to speed you through everything, but just in a way where we can do our due diligence in a timely manner so that you are well educated about the home and you can make an informed decision about moving forward with the escrow. But at the end of the day, there's no reason to have wasted days and stay in escrow too long. And by having a faster escrow, usually the seller will want to accept your offer because, let's keep it real, they want to get paid so that they can move on and start that next chapter of their life. So having writing an offer and having a lot of our dates expedited within reason so that you can do your due diligence properly is definitely a winning strategy. Paying more earnest money deposit. So earnest money deposit is your skin in the game money. It's that money that says, hey, I'm submitting an offer to you and I'm going to put this deposit into escrow and I want you to take the property off the market and allow me to go through the due diligence process so I can make sure I want to buy this property. Well, the more skin in the game you have, the more serious you seem, and a lot of sellers do respond to that, okay? On average in LA, I highly recommend you come in with a 3% earnest money deposit. Now that deposit is protected through your contingencies, and we'll talk about that in a second. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, you're giving up this money. No, my job as your realtor is to protect that deposit for you, okay? Now, it talks about here releasing your earnest money deposit. Consider this if you've waived all contingencies. Depending on when you're watching this video, depends on how competitive the market is. Right now, we're not in a market where that is necessarily relevant, but we did come out of that market, I would say from 2020 to maybe March of 2022, that was definitely something that we had to consider because it was highly competitive. We had homes that were getting 30, 40 offers at a time. So if you wanted to win out of 40 other people, you had to do what you had to do, okay? And then rent back. This is definitely something that a lot of times you will be asked from the listing agent before when you submit an offer, they'll counter you back and say, hey, would it be okay if the seller stays in the house an extra 10 days, 5 days? You know, anything under 30 days, we structured in a way so that you're protected. You don't end up with a squatter on your hands or a seller that wants to stay. There's a way that we will put together the contract. I've done it several times, and every time the seller does leave on time. I had one case where the seller ended up staying 2 days over, and my client, my buyer, ended up getting paid an additional $3,000 because of that, because of the way I structured the contract. So I'm very good at that, and that's something that we would talk about on a one-off situation. All right, so now we're gonna talk about strategies to get you the best deal, and this really works when we're in a less competitive market. Now, right now here in Los Angeles, we're teetering right in the middle. It depends on the home. Homes that are beautiful and turnkey homes, ready to move in, everything's already been done, they are still very highly competitive. But homes that aren't exactly that criteria, then it's not as competitive. And then we can start to utilize a lot of these strategies. So all they're saying here, and what I recommend, is that you do include all the contingencies. So all the contingencies that could be there, which are 3 major contingencies, and we're actually coming up with a 4th contingency right now. We're working on that as realtors. So the top 3 contingencies are going to be a home inspection contingency, an appraisal contingency, and a loan contingency. And now, because we are having some issues with insurance policies in California, and I heard Florida's having the same issue as well, we're going to be adding in an insurance contingency as well too, to make sure that you can actually get the home insured, and you're not on the hook for purchasing a home that can't be insured. So those are really the 4 contingencies that you want to go into and write an offer with, and I will walk you through all of that on a one-on-one basis, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as I get to that part, okay? The next thing is that think about making offers on more stale listings. So when you're in the Redfin app, you can see how many days, it says days on Redfin. That's how many days that home has been on the market. When you're seeing things that are above 25, 35, 45, 60 days, oh man, those are the ones that we can really go in and we can negotiate and try to get you a much better deal, okay? You want to look for homes that have consistent price reduction. So you see a home come on the market on the app, and then maybe 2 weeks later, you see that they had a price reduction. Maybe 2 weeks after that, they did another price reduction. Well, guess what? We know we have a motivated seller there. They're willing to do what it takes so they can get that home sold. And so we can reach out to that listing agent and put together a deal that works for you and the seller, okay? Now, faster closing dates. I talked about this earlier. You know, the faster we can get through escrow, the more attractive your offer is going to be to a seller and actually get you in that home as soon as possible. Now, I'm not saying that we need to skip any steps. We don't need to do anything that could turn out to, you know, cause you to not know something about the property or miss something about the property. But I've done this quite a bit. I know what the timeframes look like and how long it takes to get the information you need. So we want to stick within that time frame to get it done as soon as possible. Now, the next thing is going to be ask the seller to contribute to your closing costs. Now, we're doing this all day, every day right now. A lot of sellers are willing to contribute to your closing costs, give you some money back towards your closing costs, or you can use that money that they credit you towards your closing costs to actually buy down your interest rate, which allows you to not have to take on such a high interest rate. Now, what does the offer process actually look like? So let's talk about it. First of all, you want to decide on how much you're going to offer on the home. And the way we do that is we're going to look at the comparable sales in that area, okay? And it's real easy to do, especially on the Redfin app, is you just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the app and you'll see it's going to say similar homes are homes that recently sold. You'll see a little blue circle on there and it'll show you that this home sold. It'll show you the date it sold and how much it sold for. And then you can click on those and you can compare the two homes. So you have a really good idea of what another buyer recently paid for that home. That's going to be the number one step. Now, the next thing is also going to be, I'm going to reach out to the listing agent and I'm going to get as much information from that listing agent as possible and find out what is the mindset of the seller. Because at the end of the day, we just want to write an offer that works for you and that works for the seller. So by me getting that information, finding out what the mindset of the seller is, we can craft the offer that's attractive to the seller and still make sense for you. All right. And that's going to determine how much that we're going to offer. Of course, we're going to deal with that on a case-by-case basis. Every single home is different. The next thing is we want to choose our contingencies. What contingencies are we going to go in with? Now let's talk about, I've said that word quite a bit in this video and I haven't explained what a contingency is. What are contingencies? Well, contingencies just mean that if this happens, then this happens. And so basically we talked about you're going to be putting down an earnest money deposit, but you want to protect that deposit. If you're in the escrow process and something comes up and you don't want to buy this home, you want to be able to cancel that contract and get your deposit back. Well, the contingencies are what allow you to do that. So like I said, there's going to be 4 contingencies. I'm just going to go ahead and count that 4th one that we're adding in now. I said it's going to be the home inspection contingency. You're going to have an appraisal contingency. You're going to have a loan contingency. And now we're adding in an insurance contingency. All right, so let's talk about that really quick. Your home inspection contingency. This is your due diligence contingency or your due diligence process. Normally, this contingency is going to be between 5 days in a highly competitive market, and it could go all the way up to 17 days in a non-competitive market here in the city of LA. Now, other parts of the country might be different. Now, I have had deals where we did a 1-day home inspection contingency. Those were investor deals. These guys were professionals. They brought their contractors and all they needed was a day. And so that's why we structured the deal that way. But for your average consumer out there buying a home, you're usually going to have about 5 days, which is a very short period to get all your inspectors out there. But during this time frame, we are going to first start off with a general home inspection. All right. Now, during the general home inspection, master certified home inspector is going to come out and they are going to inspect the entire house. They're going to go in the attic. They're going to go under the house. They're going to test all the components of the house. They're going to stress test the plumbing and things like that, look at the electrical, and they're going to let you know if there's any health or safety issues. Depending on what they find, because they are a generalist, they will recommend if there's any other inspections that you need to have done for the house. If they find any electrical problems, they're going to say, hey, you should get an electrician out here so they can give you an estimate for what it costs to repair that. Or they're going to say, hey, I found a puddle under the house, right? Or whatever they find. And they're going to recommend, hey, get a plumber out here so they can give you an estimate to repair that. So you do your general home inspection and they're going to let you know exactly if there's any health or safety issues and just things that you need to know about the home. What I love about my general home inspector that I use is that not only does he look out and tell you about health or safety issues, he also, during the inspection process, will give you tips and tricks on how you can actually take better care of your home so you can do a lot of preventative maintenance. So that's the particular home inspector that I use. If you have your own home inspector, of course, we can go with yours. But I do have my own vendors that I recommend. Now, there's 3 inspections I highly recommend that you do when doing your due diligence process. The first is going to be a general home inspection. The second is going to be a termite inspection. And the third is going to be a sewer line inspection. Now, in regards to the termite inspection, guess what, guys? I don't know what part of the world you're coming from, but here in Los Angeles, all homes have termites because that's just a part of the region of the world that we live in. Now, it's just a question of to what degree does the home have termites and where you are on the termite cycle. Now, here in Los Angeles, they highly recommend that every 10 years you have your home tinted for termites. And guess what? Some sellers and some owners actually follow that maintenance schedule, and most don't. So before you buy the home, you need to know where you're at in the termite cycle. And if that's something that we find that the home has a lot of termites on, we will usually ask the seller to take care of that before we close escrow. Now, in regards to the sewer line inspection, also very important. You know, a lot of these homes here in LA are over 100 years old, which I know is young compared to other parts of the world. I had a client that moved here from London, and he told me his home was built in the 1500s. So I thought that was crazy. But here in Los Angeles, a lot of the homes are coming up on 100 years they've been here. And those sewer lines have been down there for over 100 years. And so we need to know the condition of it before you close escrow, because I have never seen a sewer line inspection come back less than $13,000, okay? So it can get expensive, and I've seen them go all the way up to $60,000 if they had to like dig, you know, a long trench. Depends on what the situation is. So we wanna know what the condition of the sewer line is before you decide to move forward and purchase the house. So those are the three home inspections that I highly recommend you do. There are others that we can talk about on a one-on-one basis. A lot of time people want to do chimney inspections. You might want to do a foundation inspection. So there's a lot of different inspections you can do that can bring you peace of mind so that you can make an informed decision about purchasing the home and you know exactly what you're getting into. Now, the appraisal contingency is very important. You got to have one if you're financing a home. If you're paying cash, you don't have to do an appraisal at all, or you don't have to do appraisal contingency. You can waive it. But if you are going to be financing a home, well, guess what? The bank is going to be loaning you money on that home, and they need to know exactly what the value is. And they can't trust what I say. They can't trust what the seller says. So they're going to send out a third-party independent appraiser to go out and do their research and give them an evaluation on what that home is worth. Now, there are three ways an appraisal can come back. It can come back saying that the home is worth more than the price that we're in escrow at, which is a great thing. That means you're buying the home with equity, right? It can come back exactly at the price that we're in escrow at, which is also a great thing. That means you're paying the right price for the house. Or it can come back below the price that we're at escrow at. And if that happens, we have a whole entire process in place that we go through. It is a point of negotiation. My goal as your realtor would be to convince the listing agent and the seller to bring the price down to the appraised value. And in a lot of instances that happens, but a lot of times it doesn't. A lot of times the seller might, if it's a competitive situation, they have backup offers, folks that are willing to pay that gap. And so if it's something like that, then most sellers will find some type of a compromise. Maybe you'll cover half of the gap and maybe they'll cover half of the gap. And in some cases, the seller might just be hard-nosed about it and say, no, you're gonna cover this, or you can cancel the transaction. So depending on what situation comes up, depends on how I'll handle that as your agent. But I'm great at handling that. I have never had to cancel a transaction because of the appraisal. We always tend to negotiate and work that out, all right? Now, loan contingency. The loan contingency is in place in case something crazy happens right before we close escrow. You might lose your job and now you can't afford this home. Well, you don't want to be contractually obligated to buy it, so we have a loan contingency in place. It just says that if something happens and you can't get the loan on the home within a certain amount of time frame, then you're allowed to cancel and get your deposit back, okay? And then, of course, the insurance policy contingency. This is a more newer contingency, but nowadays we need it because a lot of buyers are having a hard time getting insurance policies here in Los Angeles and in California, period. It's happening in other parts of the country too. We've had a lot of extreme weather over the last couple of years. You probably heard about that, a lot of these wildfires and things like that. So insurance companies have a much stricter criteria now, and in some neighborhoods, it can be really tough, okay? So that's something we'll talk about on a one-on-one basis. So those are your contingencies that you have in place. Like I said, the purpose of the contingencies is going to allow you to go through the escrow process, do your due diligence, and if there's a reason that you need to cancel, depending on what subject it falls under, you'll be able to cancel and get your earnest money deposit back and move on to the next home. All right, let's move on. So now that we know what price you're going to pay and we know what contingencies we're going to put into the offer, now we are going to review the offer together. I'm going to go line by line of the purchase agreement and explain everything to you. The California purchase agreement is a 16-page document, and then there's another about 15 pages of disclosures that go along with it. I will be explaining all of it to you so you know exactly what we're going to be submitting to the listing agent. So the next thing is going to be submitting your offer. Now, I am a specialist at writing offers. I am great with the contract. I'm able to execute exactly what your wants and needs are in the contract. And guess what? I submit the offer in a way that gets the listing agent excited and the seller excited. And it shows them that we are professionals. We know exactly what we're doing. And ultimately, the most important thing to the listing agent, it shows them that we can close. So I put together an entire offer package. It has your purchase agreement. It's going to have your pre-approval letter. In some cases, it might even have a love letter that you wrote to the seller, although nowadays we're starting to get away from that. And it has all the financial data that they need to see that you can close. And then I put it together with a nice summary and one packet, one PDF, and I send that over to the listing agent. And it's just the way I do it, it's in a way that they're going to submit that right to the seller. The seller is going to see like, wow, this person knows exactly what they're doing. And it really is the key in why I get so many offers accepted. So you're working with one of the best here when it comes to submitting an offer. And so we'll walk through that process at that time and we'll get your offer submitted. Now, after we submit the offer, depends on how competitive the situation is, we might need to negotiate a little bit because we might receive a counter offer. The seller might say, you know what, I like your offer, but maybe you need to come up on the price a little bit. Or maybe I want you to remove one of those contingencies or shorten one of the days, or hey, can I stay an extra 2 weeks at no cost to me? There's a lot of different things that they'll put on a counter offer. Sometimes it's really basic, sometimes it can be complex. Myself and you will discuss it, and then we'll go back and forth between the listing agent and the seller until we come to an agreement, okay? Now, once we come to an agreement, we're gonna open the escrow process, and now the closing process or the escrow process begins. So let's talk about that. All right, the closing process. This is my favorite part, getting you through escrow, holding your hand through this entire process. Now, the first step is we're gonna have to have mutual agreement. You're gonna get an accepted offer, all right? So we go through that process. If there's any counter offers, we get an accepted offer. Usually I always get an email or a phone call from the listing agent saying, hey, congratulations, my seller accepted your buyer's offer. And then the first thing I do is I hang up with them and I call you and I say, hey, guess what, Mr. Buyer, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, your offer is accepted. And we celebrate on the phone, and then I hang up with you, and the very first thing I do is I call the home inspector so we can get the process started, all right? The next thing that you're gonna have to do though, after I call you to congratulate you about getting your offer accepted, is you're gonna need to immediately go and get your earnest money deposit wired into the escrow bank account. Now, we're not giving the earnest money deposit to the seller. That would be bad, because how could we know they're gonna give it back to us if we needed it? We give it to a third party, which is escrow, and we're gonna talk about that right now, okay? The next thing I do, or the next process is going to be the inspection and appraisal process. So like I already described, we're gonna call the home inspector out, you're gonna do those 3 inspections, they're gonna come through, tell us everything we need to know. You're gonna make a decision about if there's anything that we need to ask the seller for. So there's a process in the inspection process called request for repairs. So once we do our home inspection, we're gonna have all these reports in front of us about the home. We're gonna have the documents from the seller disclosures, and we're gonna look at all these documents, and it's gonna really paint a picture of the condition of this home. And from there, we'll make a decision if there's anything that we need to ask the seller for before we move forward with this escrow. In some cases, we might ask them to pay for a termite. In some cases, we might ask them to make repairs or give us a credit if we find something that is a health or safety issue, okay? That can be a point of negotiation. Sometimes we go back and forth, but once we come to a mutual agreement, they just said, okay, we'll give you a credit or we'll repair this item or that item. Then from there, you're gonna remove your home inspection contingency, and we're gonna move forward with the rest of the escrow process, okay? And then that's when the lender is going to reach out to the appraiser and have the appraiser come out and do their part of the process. Now let's talk about what is the escrow process and what is escrow? Because not every place has it. From what I understand, most other parts of America don't have an escrow. They just have the title and they have an attorney involved. Well, escrow is like a referee in a sports game. Their job is a third-party observer of the transaction, and their job is to make sure that everybody is sticking to the contract, to make sure that the seller is sticking to their obligations and that the buyer is sticking to their obligations. They bring all the paperwork together, they do all the transfers necessary, they order all the payoffs, and they talk with the title company to make sure that every piece of paperwork, every document, and every aspect of the transaction goes smooth and according to the contract. So they're the third-party referee of the transaction. That's what escrow is. So like I said, when you make your earnest money deposit, you'll be depositing that into the escrow account, not giving it to the seller. All right. Now, the mortgage process has already gotten started from the moment you had your offer accepted. So you'll be working with your lender back and forth. A lot of times there's documents they're gonna need to get you through the underwriting process. Underwriting process is a process you go through while you're in escrow, and they're just gonna go and verify all the things that you put in your loan application. They're gonna verify your employment. They're gonna verify that you make exactly what you say you make. They're gonna make sure you don't have anything on your financial records that would prevent you from buying a home. There's all kinds of different things. If you have any judgments against you or things like that, they're going to double check all of that to make sure that all the paperwork and that everything about your loan is acceptable so that they can actually approve you and get you into this home, okay? Get you your mortgage. The next step is going to be, they call it here a title review, but this is something that happens between escrow and the loan officer. So really, as a buyer, you're not that involved, but you do get a copy of the title report, and that's something that I will go over with you. We'll take a look at the title report. It gives us an entire history of the home and lets you know every transaction that's ever taken place with the home. It lets us know if there's a cloudy title, if someone has an interest in the home that maybe wasn't disclosed. You know, because at the end of the day, you don't want to close on this property and then, you know, someone comes out the woodwork and is like, oh, you know, my cousin gave me 50% interest in this and I didn't get paid. We don't want that to happen. So we got to make sure that the home has a clean title. In other states, this is a big deal. You have attorneys involved and things like that. Here in California, it's a little bit of a different process. We have a title company that's going to give you title insurance when you close escrow. And so they go through that process, and it's more of an internal process that they go through. And if there's anything that pops out, they'll let us know and let us know, hey, we got to work this out before we close escrow, or we can't close escrow. All right. Then guess what? You're going to be signing all of your paperwork and all of your mortgage documents. So the way it works here in California and in the county of Los Angeles is that the first thing that you have to do is get a closing disclosure, or a CD, from your lender. Your lender is going to email you a closing disclosure. This disclosure is going to have all the fees associated with purchasing a home, and it's going to show you exactly the monies that are owed to you and the monies that you owe. And at the end of that document, it's going to tell you what your closing costs are. Okay, so you're going to receive that. Now, there is a law here in Los Angeles County that you have to have 3 days from the time that you receive your closing disclosure until the time you can sign your loan docs. And the purpose is to make sure nobody's pressuring you into signing a loan docs or tricking you or in any way. So you kind of have a 3-day cool down period. Now, those 3 days are going to go by, and then you are going to go into the escrow office, or they can send a public notary to wherever you are. I've had clients that were on vacation during this process, and so we sent a notary to where they were on vacation, got the document signed, and then they FedEx the documents back to escrow. Depending on what your situation is, depends on how this process is going to go. Now, after you sign all those documents, you're going to go and you're going to wire in the remainder of your down payment and whatever closing costs that the closing disclosure told you you owe, okay? And now you are funding your portion of the loan. You're gonna send that money into escrow. The day after that you send your money, then your lender is gonna send that large portion of the loan over. They're gonna wire that into the escrow account, and you have now funded the loan. So the money is sitting in an escrow account waiting to go to the seller. Now, there's a weird rule here in Los Angeles County, and it says that you cannot close on the same day that you fund. You have to close on the next business day. So the next business day, after the money is all sitting in the account, the escrow officer is going to send it to be recorded by the county of Los Angeles. And when the county receives it, they're going to go in, they're going to say, okay, the new owner is you, the buyer, and no longer the old owner. And guess what? The moment we get confirmation of that, you get the keys to your home, and you have now successfully purchased that home. You are the proud new owner of it. As soon as I get that confirmation email, I'm going to call you up. I'm going to be so excited. I'm going to let you know, congratulations, you're the new owner of your home. And when do you want to meet me at the property so I can give you the keys? We're going to show up to the property. I'm going to hand you the keys to your new home. I'm always going to have a gift for you. We're going to make a cool video. We're going to celebrate. We're going to pop some champagne because you did it. You made it through the process. So that's what it looks like to go from your pre-approval all the way to getting the keys to your home. So what are the next steps? Well, you've just learned a lot. You've taken in a lot of new information. And hopefully, like I said at the beginning of the video, you know exactly what it's going to take for you to go into this LA real estate market and achieve your real estate goals. Now, if we haven't met yet, we'll be meeting each other soon. So if you have any questions about all the things you just learned, then have those ready for me so that when we meet, I can answer those questions for you. And if we've already met, then go ahead, shoot me a text or just give me a call. You have my number, and go ahead and ask me any questions you have. Now, I would like to schedule a consultation with you so we can sit down and I can discuss with you exactly what your real estate goals are, so I can let you know how I can properly facilitate you. Some of you guys out there are going to need to sell your home before you buy your next home, and I would love to tell you about how Redfin can save you thousands of dollars in that process. Or some of you out there have some unique situations and you're going to need solutions to maybe some problems that you might have. And so I'd like to discuss those with you so I can help come up with solutions to those problems. So let's go ahead, schedule a consultation. We can do this via Zoom, or we can meet in person. We can meet at a coffee shop. We can meet at a restaurant, whatever's most comfortable for you. Now, when we do meet, there's going to be a couple of questions and there's going to be a couple of things that we're going to talk about. So let's cover that really quick so you can be fully prepared. So the first thing we're going to want to talk about is, what are the reasons you're looking to move? I need to know that. I would like to know what your motivation is, and I like to know your sense of urgency so that I can react appropriately. The next thing we're going to talk about is, have you already spoken with a lender? Have you already had the conversation about a pre-approval, or have you already lined up your finances? The next thing we're going to get into is, what is it that you're actually looking for in this new home that you're going to be purchasing? After that, we'll talk about what has you the most excited and what is giving you any anxiety, or what has you nervous about this home search, if anything at all. So I like to talk about that so that I can let you know what we have in place that can make you feel better about the things you feel nervous about. And of course, there's going to be things you're excited about, and I can't wait to explore those with you as well too. And then after that, we're going to talk about what are your must-haves in your new home, and if there's any things that are deal breakers. For some people, they will not buy a home with a swimming pool, and for some people, they won't buy a home without a swimming pool. So depending on what your unique situation is, we'll discuss that so that I can better serve you. So what are the next steps for you and for me? Well, first of all, if you have any questions, like I said, go ahead, shoot me a text message or give me a call, or ask those questions when we meet in person if we haven't met yet. Next is going to be to get those finances lined up. So if you're going to be financing this home, then we need to go ahead and connect you with a lender. Or if you know a lender, or if you have a friend or family that is a lender, then go ahead and let's have those conversations so we can get you started on the pre-approval process. And if you're paying cash, just make sure you have your bank statements or your proof of funds ready to go and have all of that lined up as far as transferring the funds into an escrow account. After that, you're going to want to go ahead. You already have the Redfin app, but you're going to want to go in there and start saving some searches for yourself. Go ahead and highlight some communities that you know you like and start looking at the homes on the app. And then from there, once you identify homes that you like, go ahead and schedule a tour. Now, my job as your agent is to go ahead and follow up with you after we're done with our consultation. Once I understand exactly what your needs are, I'll send you any referrals that you're going to need to get through this transaction or to help you with the moving process. Then from there, I can connect you with the Bay Equity representative or any other lender, like I said, that you want a referral to. From there, I will go into the Redfin app and behind the scenes, and I will save some searches for you based on the conversation that we have. And then I can start to recommend homes for us to go and see. And from there, we will take it on a case-by-case basis. So one of the things I want you to know is that buying through Redfin is an awesome experience. Our clients absolutely love us and they love the experience. So I look forward to holding your hand and to guiding you through this entire process. All right, I will see you soon. Bye-bye.